My guest today is Paul Nadeau. He's a former hostage negotiator, keynote and TEDx speaker, multi-author and scriptwriter, actor, and life coach. Paul and I dig into a wide array of topics, including how to know if we're being lied to, Paul's acting and scriptwriting career, how to negotiate with a hostage, how to negotiate with someone who wants to take their own life, how to translate hostage negotiation into other areas of life, how to become a more effective salesperson, Paul's time as a peacekeeper in the Middle East and how his life was saved by a terrorist in Iraq, and how to ask and get what you want. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Paul Nadeau. Hey everyone, just a quickie before we get into the conversation. The podcast is always going to be free, so I'm never going to ask you to pay for anything. But if you could do me the kindness of subscribing and maybe leaving a review, that would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you and enjoy the episode. All right, Paul, so tell me what's brought you to where you find yourself today.
Well, that's a loaded question. To answer that properly, I think I have to go back into my childhood because I was raised in a home where there was a lot of violence. My father was a very violent alcoholic, and he abused the whole family. And the things that were done to us, and I'm going to talk about myself, no child should ever have to go through. And I could get into great detail, but that would probably not be allowed on this kind of platform here. But needless to say that other than beatings, I was subjected to much more. I remember after a particular beating at the age of 7, that looking up at my father and on the ground and thinking to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to be a policeman so I can arrest you and people like you. And about a year later, about 8 years old, I still believed in Santa Claus. And my brother and I were very excited. 2 weeks before Christmas, Santa Claus was coming. And we were just so happy until my father walked in from outdoors and he was carrying his .22 rifle. And he told us, he said, not going to be a Christmas this year. I just killed Santa Claus. And,
Wow.
And then he went downstairs and he put his rifle away. And that was when I stopped believing Santa Claus existed. But the reason I bring the Santa Claus story up is that he took his life with the same rifle that he used to kill Santa Claus. And I was 17 when he took his life. But I joined the police department. So that happened to me, but the experience of having been abused also happened for me because it really made me committed to becoming that policeman so I could help others. And I joined the police department when I was 21. And I had learned from many, many experiences, my father being one of them, but my mother, my beautiful mom, taught me really how to be a communicator, how to speak, how to engage people. At the age of 8, I was on a radio program selling encyclopedias for my mom because she needed money. And I was able to communicate well with people, and I joined the police department, as I said, and then became a detective very quickly, and then became a hostage negotiator, a major crimes detective, and a peacekeeper. And I remained on the police department for 32 years, and my story really reads like a Hollywood blockbuster. Terrorism, I fought terrorists in the Middle East during the war. I talked people off, terrorists off a plane. I just did a lot of things. When I left the police department, it wasn't like I was retiring. It was that I was moving on to new opportunities. I started to act in film and television. I wrote books and am still writing. Wrote a movie script. So all these things have led me to where I am now. And the amazing thing is I have no idea where it's going to take me next because whispers come to me. Hey, try this. And I say yes. I say yes to the whispers. And I remember saying no to a whisper with my first book. I said, everybody kept telling me to write this book. And I said, listen, I have no interest whatsoever in writing a book. And found myself actually seated at my desk here a few years ago, and the whisper came into my room. It was almost as though you're talking to me right now. It said, write a book. And I'm talking to this open space saying, no, I'm not going to write a book. I don't want to write a book. Write a book. And that was the whisper. So the next day I picked up a book on how to write a book, and it took me a long time to actually get around to completing it because at first I wasn't a committed writer. And then I decided to be a committed writer and to put 150% into it. And I self published that book after the Whisper had told me to write it. But it was picked up by a major publishing company and it's now all across the world. So the whole point of telling you that is that a series of events in my life have worked out for me and have made me the person I am today. And I'm excited for the next adventure. Have no idea what it's going to be. I wrote a script, and it looks like it's going to be made into a feature movie. So nothing that nothing stops me. Let's put it that way. The only person that stops me is me, and I'm not ready to do that. So that's my story, Jason.
Fascinating. The one thing that stuck out for me there was the acting thing, and I first thought there's like, oh, that kind of like, you know, the peacekeeping and the detective and the hostage negotiation. What was it about acting that sort of, yeah, where did that come from?
It came from high school, I'll tell you. When I was when I was in grade 11, the school that I was going to, they had just opened, and their their highest grade was grade 11, and I happened to be in grade 11, so I was a senior in that school. And then the next year they would bring it up to grade 12, and I'd be a senior as well. So I was looking for easy credits, something that I could do and kind of slack off. I had my long hair. This was back in the 70s, and I just wanted to have fun, right? I was just a kid wanting to have fun. I thought, what would be an easy credit? And it turned out that there was dramatic arts, and that was like acting and just being part of a class of people doing plays. And I thought, well, that'll be fun. And so I never thought of myself as an actor, but I auditioned for a play in the class, and I got the lead. And I thought, this is really kind of cool, because back then, the girl that was playing alongside me, very pretty girl, I got to kiss her on the stage in this play, and it was great. And I thought, this is fun. And the attention you got from it, I thought, hey, this is really cool. So I auditioned for a second play, and I got the lead role as well. And I just it started getting in my blood. Now, when I got married, my youngest child, she really developed a passion for acting. I had left school, obviously. I was now a policeman. And she developed this passion for acting. And she says, Dad, when are you going to get back into acting? And because I had talked to her about my experience acting on stage. And I said, well, honey, I don't know. Maybe if there's a play that happens, I'll join a play. About a week later, she comes to me and she says, well, they're auditioning at the theater in our town for the Dracula. And, you should go out and you should audition for this. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm committed now, right? Because I've been talking to her about acting. Her passion was acting. And I went out and I auditioned for the play, and I actually got the role. And it was a stage play, and I had fun time, a real fun time. So I started doing community theater. And as it happens, one of the actors in one of the plays that I was in said, I have an agent in Toronto, and it's a film and television agent, and you're pretty good. Well, I should introduce you. And I said, yes. Like I'm really open to the yeses. And so I said, yes, of course. So I went and I met this agent, and he says, you got a really, really good look, man. And yeah, we're going to put you on a roster. And that's how the doors opened. I got a movie, like a part of a movie, and a couple of television appearances and such. And that's how the acting actually got into my blood. So that's how that happened. The doors just seemed to open,
Love that. So was that after? I'm trying to pinpoint where this is. Is this after your time, doing the peacekeeping and the hostage negotiation? Like, where does that fall?
That excuse me, that fell It fell right about the time that I had done the peacekeeping. I was still a hostage negotiator, and I was still on the job. And I was now doing police work, and then coming out to Toronto. I was about an hour away from Toronto, and I was on my time off. I was auditioning in Toronto, and so I was doing two jobs. So I would have the police work, and then I would go and I would do some acting on my days off, or have to take a day off to do the acting. And it came to a point where, after the 31 and a half years on the police department, I was doing a lot of acting, and I kind of said, okay, you know what? I'm of retirement age, and I have another job to go to, this film and television acting, and I think I'm going to move on and just start a new chapter of my life. That's how that transition happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And is there much kidnapping in Canada?
Not much. Well, you know what? There there likely is, but it's a lot of it is family. Like, a lot of it would be a separated, mother or father, taking their child away from their spouse. As far as I can't tell you what the statistics would be in the human trafficking, kidnapping, that kind of stuff, because I really haven't kept up with that. I've been retired for a few years, so I haven't kept up with that, but I'm certain that there's a lot more than going on that we actually know anything about.
And your work, was it mainly domestic then?
I was a hostage negotiator. I was negotiating um, with hostage takers who had taken either a hostage. See, in most instances, people don't plan to take a hostage. In most instances, unless they're pirates, or unless they're taking a hostage to sell, or to barter, or some kind of thing. Hostage takings are generally when a crime goes wrong, like if there's a robbery and then all of a sudden something unexpected happens, the door's locked, or they start leaving, and they find that they're surrounded by the police, and now what happens? Or in domestic situations, when an argument has, there's fighting in the home, and then suddenly the police are at the door, and buddy panics and takes a knife, or just threatens to kill his spouse, or something along that line. So it's not like they're thinking, hey, I'm going to commit a crime in a couple of weeks from now, and I think I'm going to take a hostage. So I'm going to call the police, and just say, listen, in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be at the liquor store on Main and Front, and it's going to go really bad. And I know you guys are going to surround the place, so I'm going to take a hostage. That's not how it happens. It's usually spur of the moment. Boom! I didn't expect this. Now what do I do? And panic sets in, and they grab hostages, and that's what it is. But I also want to say that as a hostage negotiator, much of what I did was negotiating with people in crisis, people who were at the end of their rope and were thinking about taking their own life. And either we got wind of it because a family member had told us, or sometimes they would pick up the phone and call and say, listen, I'm going to take my life. And it's their last kind of, like, please help me, or I'm going to do this. And so that is 80% of the work that hostage negotiators do, is dealing with people in crisis, people who have decided that they didn't want to carry on in this world.
What do you say to someone who is on the other end of the phone saying that they're going to end their life?
We start out, and this is a general statement for hostage negotiators, and we start out by saying, um, we personalize it. My name is Paul. I'm the negotiator today, and I'm here to help. I'm here to help you, and I want to listen to what's going on. I want to hear from you, and I'm just here. I'm ready to help. How can I help you? And that is how we approach even a hostage taker is to let them know that we're here to help, we're here to listen, and we're here to make them feel comfortable with us. And depending on the circumstances, and of course, every negotiation is going to be different. Pardon me, but we have to find something that they value, like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your story, do you have any family? Now, while we're talking, like while the hostage negotiator is talking, we have a team of detectives who are out on the street. And if it's a hostage taker, they're trying to find out who this person is, what brought them to this particular place where they now are holding hostages. What is it that we can use? What kind of intelligence can we use to then pass on to the hostage negotiator, me? So now I get a note handed in through the chain of events, and it gets into the command center, and I see, oh, okay, buddy just got out of prison three weeks ago. But if it's someone in crisis, the same thing is happening. We have detectives who are looking into this person. Who is this person? What's their story? What is it? What did they value? Are they married? Do they have children? Did they recently get divorced? Did they lose someone in their life? We're looking for anything that we can throw out as a lifeline to the individual. Like if I'm there speaking to Mr. X, and he's saying I'm going to kill myself, and then I'm trying to find out as much, I'm going to ask, what brought you to this place? And I'm going to try to use his first name as often as I can, like to personalize it. Let's say that his name is John. John, I understand that you're in a very dark place right now. I'm here to help. I'm here to listen. Tell me what's going on, please. There can be a tomorrow, and there can be people who can help you. There are people. I'm one of them. But I assure you, there are a lot of people out there who are going to be able to help. Tomorrow could be a very different day, but it won't be a different day if you take your life today. If you take your life now, you can't decide tomorrow to come back. Are you telling me that you're going to kill yourself? That is a final decision. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. Please tell me, what can I do to help you right now? And you do that. Do you have any children, John? Do you have any children? Yeah, I got two kids. How old are they, John? Let's talk about them. I want to see what it is in John's life, and I'm using John as an example here, this fictional individual. I want to see if maybe his children are his life, or he misses his children. And I know because my father killed himself. And it took me years to come to grips with the fact that that was how he did it. So I may share some of my personal experience with John. John, my dad did that. And you have two little girls you just told me about. They won't get over this, John. I know that you love your kids. You love your kids. People can help. People are there to help. I assure you that if you decide that to come out today, that I will put you in touch with people who will help you. Believe enough in the love that you have for your children. Your daughters, they love you. They need you. They need a dad. They don't want to go to school in 2 weeks from now and say, my dad is gone because he took his life. So there are so many ways to approach that. But what we need to do with people in crisis or people who have taken hostages is to let them know that we're there to help them, that there is another way out than the way that they find themselves in. And it requires active listening. It requires being empathetic. It requires just making that personal connection, using your voice in many different ways, slowing things down, and just, I get it. I understand, John. using that DJ's voice,
Mm.
to reassure and to comfort. And it really is um, connecting with another human being and caring for the outcome of that human being. That's what it's all about.
So I have a question relating to is hostage negotiation in that sphere, is that an act? Because it feel like I'm trying to pass out, like it feels sincere, and I feel like you are being sincere, but at the same time feels like a script. So I'm kind of like,
It's not a script, Jason. It's not a
yeah,
script. If you script things out, people will see that it's a script. And
mm,
the moment you lie, like if you have a script and you lie, it's like being a salesperson. We know when a salesperson has a script and they're talking to us, and we want to shut them down. Like
mm,
the first, if I feel that I have an insincere salesperson, I'm gonna shut them down. I don't want to have anything to do with them or what they're selling because it's probably all just bad anyways, and I don't trust that person. You have to build a trust. They have to know you, like you, and trust you in a very short period of time, and it's not a script. You know
mm,
that there are certain things to say, but you like the training that a hostage negotiator gets is so intense. It's we learn about psychology, what makes people tick, and we have an idea on how to make that human connection, but it's not a script, because the moment you start using a script is the moment people start disbelieving in you, and that's when things can really turn. People die, like
mm.
hostages die. They kill themselves, murder, suicide, whatever. It's not a script, and it can never be a script, Jason. It's got to be one person genuinely caring about the other person. Yeah, and if you apply the same principles in sales, you know that, yeah, you know how to sell. You know certain things. You're going to ask certain questions. Sure, there is things that you're going to look into, but everyone is going to be different, and you really have to put the human element into the negotiation. Otherwise, that idea that, oh, I'm just following a set of instructions here, they're going to see it, and it doesn't matter how good an actor you are, they're going to see it, because you
Mm.
really have to make that connection, and you have to be so sincere about it.
I suppose maybe script was the wrong. I was just thinking about probably the wrong term for it, but it was almost like the tonality as you were doing it was quite mesmerizing because I was finding myself kind of like falling under your spell.
Okay, yeah,
And I was like, oh, wow, this is. And then I was like, kind of like, oh, is this an act? So that's why I was kind of like trying to figure that one out. But I suppose what made me, because it was so powerful as well, I could see how if you're the sort of person who ends up in that situation, you've probably had no one that's listened to you or been felt that you've. That's probably the first time they've ever had someone go, "Yeah, I understand. I get it, mate."
right.
That must be part of why it's so powerful.
And you're right, Jason. There is a way we do have excuse me, pardon me. We do have a way of speaking. We know when to use that DJ's voice. Sure, that there are ways in which we have been taught, instructed, to be able to use our words and the tone of our voice in the most effective of ways, of course. So, not following a script, but and I understand what you're saying now. To be an effective hostage negotiator, even an effective salesperson, like for example, or a business owner, we know that there are ways in which we can reach the people, our clients, and I could say that a hostage taker or a person in crisis is my client because I need to serve them. I need to really connect with them. How do I do it? I'll choose my words carefully. I'll ask them to tell me what their pain points are. I'll I'll listen. I'll make them, I'll seek first to understand and then to be understood by them. And it's the same principle in any effective type of communication between people. The same the same approach I can use with a significant other of mine. If there's a conflict, then what do I do? Like, it's using your voice, it's listening, it's asking them to open up, it's all these things. So yes, there is a very effective way. I teach this now. I speak globally to big companies on how to negotiate using a hostage negotiator's approach. And that is using your voice. And that is, I've written a book on it. So yes, there is a way to do things that hostage negotiators use, and very effective business people and people in general who understand human nature, they do follow a particular pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like I learned a few years ago. As you start to like mature as a like someone who used to talk about themselves or still does talk about himself quite a lot, that by listening to other people, those people find you more interesting than you talking about yourself. Uh,
Yes.
and it's the same. And actually, I've worked on and off in sales all my life as well. So, and I've always kind of just had a natural style, and my style's probably just chatting to them and listening to them and learning about them. And then that's obviously you're developing this rapport, and that allows you to be more successful and negotiate with them, I guess.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, Jason. When we build that rapport with someone, when we have that connection, and again, the keys are know you, like you, and trust you. When somebody,
Mm.
we could do that in a very short period of time. But when that happens, that magic, and it is a lot of it is about active listening. It's about asking questions, being curious. What is it that you're dealing with? What is it that you're looking for? Um, what is it that you're struggling with? How can I help you to come up with the right product solution, whatever it is, like in crisis? How can I connect you with someone who's going to help? What is it that I can do? And we just ask these questions, and we assure, like, people need to be assured that they're doing the right thing sometimes. And you being a salesperson, that once you make the sale, for example, if you sell something, um, hopefully your last line is not, okay, have a nice day. It might be something like, I know you bought this here today and it was a big purchase for you. You made the right choice. Like, this is going to really be good for you. And
Mm.
if there's anything that you're struggling with, you make sure to come back to me and let me know. But you did the right thing here today. And when people are assured that whatever they've invested in is the right thing, they feel better about the choices that they make. And we did that with people in crisis, or people who are hostage takers. Say, you're making the right decision by coming out. One of the things with a hostage taker too is that once we begin, at first, a hostage taker has the power, right? They're in control. They have the gun. They have the hostages. They're in control. What a hostage negotiator needs to do is to develop that rapport to the point where the power becomes equalized, so to speak, like it's on the same level. And we begin to then negotiate. We're talking about, now, what is it that I can do to help you? And you have another choice here. And at one point, I'm going to ask one of the most important questions, which is, what are you afraid of? Why, like, why are you afraid at this moment? What is it that you're concerned about? And 90% of them will say, Paul, I'm worried that if I step out that door right now, your sniper is going to kill me. That fear has to be reduced or eliminated But I never would have known that if I didn't ask the question, what's preventing you from moving forward? And let's use sales, for example, big purchase. They're almost there. But if you don't ask, what is it that you're worried about? Is there something I haven't covered? Is there something that you're thinking about that you would like to ask me or that you're afraid of? And that's when people open up even more and you get to help them even further. So if I didn't ask the question, John, why aren't you stepping out right now? And I think we've gotten to that point. How, what's on your mind? Is there something that you're worried about? Is there something you're not telling me? What are you
Mm.
concerned about? What are you afraid of? Paul, I'm afraid that if I step out, somebody's going to shoot me. Okay, now I'm going to assure you that that's not going to happen. That's how we do it, right?
Yeah, it's like it's just it seems to me like in both these examples, and with sales and hostage negotiation, as it were, it's all about fact finding as much information as you can, so that, like, I suppose, like, you start with, let's say, okay, let's say in sales you're going to start it with a generic script, but the more data that you can glean from the person on the end of the phone, the more that script becomes customized, and so yeah, very interesting. I'd never thought of it like that before, but when you say it like that, it totally makes sense.
It's what one of the jobs that I do now. I'm a global keynote speaker. And as I said, I get hired by big companies to go all around the world and speak on negotiations using these approaches that hostage negotiators have developed and learned over the years. And it's true. Once we start to think that way, we can take a regular salesperson and turn them into a dynamic seller because they're not trying to sell anymore. They're trying to connect with another human being and help that person to reach whatever it is that they're looking to reach. And this is human nature. Is that I'm not here to sell to you, Jason. I like not looking to make a sale. I'm looking to find out what it is that you need and put you in touch with what it is that you need and get you what you need. And when people feel that they're not being sold to, or they're not being fed
Mm.
a story, then they go, oh my God, you really care. And we all want to buy something. We all want to buy something, but I'll tell you, I'm sure you probably will resonate with this, and your listeners out there, listen to everyone listening in and tuning in. Imagine this. Imagine walking into a place and you want to buy something. You're not just kind of want to look around and just maybe ask a couple of questions. But if you have a salesperson who's just right on your back and just doesn't give you time to breathe and is trying to sell you something, how comfortable are you going to feel about that exchange? Not really
Mm.
comfortable. But if they take a genuine interest in you and don't push anything and say, I'm here if you need anything, I'll be right over here and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And they're not trying to sell to you. You're probably going to go and look at I think I'm going to go ask some questions. And still, it's their approach and how genuine they are and how interested they are in making sure that you leave with something that you want and that you're happy to take, you're happy to buy, and they're just going
Mm.
to help you get there. And it's just taking that interest, Jason. It's just it's so powerful.
Yeah, there's like different tiers to sales, isn't there? It's like a lot of people would envisage the top salesperson as the guy that's really pushy and the rest of it. That's the sort of meme that we've seen
Mm.
portrayed in Hollywood or whatever. But it's actually, that's kind of the amateur salesperson. And I was always like, and not to toot my own horn, but it was like, when I was selling, it never felt like I was selling, because it was just, all I was doing was just, I was being totally honest. Like, here are the products. I don't know if that one will work for you. Maybe that one. It's up to you. I'm just, it would always be totally genuine, because you can never, um, it's like that whole truthful thing. If you're always truthful, you've never got anything to hide. It's like, and I think people trust you. So, and what I've always found in my career from that is you might have, the guy that was in the same office as me might get more sales on a daily basis, smaller sales or whatever, but they don't come back. But then I would get the long-term clients, the bigger spenders. That would always be the sort of the trend of things.
Yep.
Because you want to be the guy that they can trust.
I like that. And yeah, you should be tooting your own horn. You're absolutely right. Your approach meant more customers would keep that relationship. We're looking to build a relationship. Even when I'm negotiating with someone, I'm trying to build a relationship of trust, and one in which that person can trust me next week or next month, or if they have something else happening, whatever. Uh, for you, I don't know if you've ever. Do you like Christmas movies?
It depends.
Okay,
Kind
well,
of.
I'm going somewhere with this. To all your listeners out there, maybe they do, and they might have seen this one movie. It was called Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, that's actually the only one I probably know.
Okay, it's
It's my sister's favorite, actually. So
I absolutely love it, and I try to
yeah.
watch it every Christmas season. There's a Santa Claus. He's like he says he's a Santa Claus in New York, and he is the Santa Claus, and all this, and of course the story is really about this guy, and they think he's delusional because he has the belief that he is Santa Claus. But the point I'm going to make here about sales is that at some point in this movie, he's greeting children, and children are sitting on his lap, and the parents are there, and they're asking for this toy that Macy's doesn't have. And he says, well, if you go to this other store, they have it in stock, and you will be able to get it there at a very good price. And of course, the parents are looking at him and saying, are you kidding? You're sending me to another store? And you reminded me of this when you when you said, like, you were really there to, now maybe this one won't work for you, is what you said. You were being so truthful and honest that people made that connection with you. And in this movie, Miracle on 34th Street, the owner of Macy's starts to realize, hey, if we just help our customers get what it is that they want, they're going to give us more business in return because they like us more. And it's true. It's like, hey, I may not have what you need right now, but I think I might have somebody in mind that will help you. And it's like sending them off somewhere else, but it doesn't have a negative effect. It has an amazing effect.
Yeah, that's why the product needs to be really good if I was working for someone, because because if I didn't believe in it, I would struggle to sell it.
Yeah.
That's the downside of, well, it's not a downside for everyone, but it's a downside for, if you're trying to do well at a company and you don't like the product.
This is it. Yeah, I wrote about this in my book too, is that you have to believe in something that your company has. Otherwise, you're a vacuum salesperson and you don't like the vacuums that you're selling, or you don't believe in the product, you're not going to do well. So leave and go someplace where you will actually believe in the product that you're selling and the service that you're giving. And since we're on the topic of sales, I think it's important for anyone out there who is a salesperson to look at the word sales. Like, let's take a look at the actual word sales, SALES. The S stands for servitude. You're there to serve your client. So think of the word sales and you will become a better salesperson. S stands for service. How may I help you? How can I be of service to you? What is it that you're looking to accomplish? What is it that you're looking to get? What's your pain point? These are the things, like this sales. I'm here to serve you. That's where the A, asking the open-ended questions, comes in. So S is for service. I'm here to serve. A is for asking those questions. What are you dealing with? What is it that you're looking? What are your pain points? What is it that you're looking to accomplish? What visions do you have? What do you want? The L is for listening, to really be an active listener. Like I'm going to listen. Yes, okay. The E is for empathizing. I get it. I understand. Yes. All right. Yes, I know where you're going with this. And the final letter in the sales acronym will be for just summarizing what it is that they said. So if I understand you correctly, Jason, what you're looking to get is X, Y, and Z on this kind of budget. Is there anything that I've missed in that? Is that what you're looking for? And I'll tell you, when you use these very simple principles of service, asking questions, listening, empathizing, and summarizing, it applies not only to sales, it applies to life, it applies to the things that we want to get. Just I want to help you get to where you want to be. I want to ask you questions so that I understand you better. I want to listen to you. I want to feel what it is that you're feeling so that I can connect you with the right things. And I'm going to make sure that I don't have it wrong. So please, if I get you correctly, what you're looking to accomplish is X, Y, and Z. I use this. I was a professional interrogator. I used to interrogate criminals, murderers, rapists, all that kind of stuff. I was good at it. I got 8 out of 10 bad people to confess to me because I had a way. Again, we talked about this in the tone of voice, just the interest in trying to get. Most people will want to share even their what they did wrong, because if you're not judging them and you're there to listen, they want to unload on someone. They really do. But if I got a confession from or when, not if, but when I got a confession from the criminals, I wanted to make sure that I understood completely what it is that they would say, that they told me. So I would say, all right, John, so that I don't have this wrong, what I'm understanding you, what you're saying is that you broke into this place, and I would go through what they had told me. And at the end of what I understood them to say, I would say, did I get that right? And if I didn't, they would say, no, Paul, there was that one thing that you missed. It was this thing. I got it. And I would do that so that I got the story clear in my mind, so that, because I'm going to later repeat it in court or whatever. But also, I just needed to understand so that I could move on to the next thing. And this is why it's so important to summarize a lot of things. Like, I may not always hear what it is that you're saying unless I ask you, did I get that right, Jason? Like, is that what you're looking to solve? Did I get that right? Yep, that's exactly what it is, Paul. And then boom, it works.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like that summarize is like, and it's like they will feel seen by you summarizing. And what's interesting is now I'm in this kind of infinity window of like looking at this situation, and that's what I do when I'm having a good podcast conversation. Is I'll kind of summarize. Oh, so you mean this? Yeah. And then like there's this rapport that's just getting built up where you go, oh yeah, like he gets me. He's listened, and I've kind of like done that repetition for my own learning as well. So interesting.
You said something, and I want to highlight it because you said something that is so very, very important. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. It's ingrained in us as humans. And when we're not seen, and when we're not heard, when we're not validated, whatever it is when we either die inside, or we take our own lives, or we hear of these first person shooters who go into schools and such. Those are the people who were never seen. Those are the people who were never acknowledged. Those are the people who fell through the cracks. And there's this need for us to be so. So if you're not listening to me now, if you're not listening to me, I'm going to show you. I'll show you, and then they will be seen and heard because they were ignored for most of their life, or people just didn't pay attention to them. And we see that all the time. We see people withdraw from society. We see all these things when they're not seen, heard, acknowledged. Um, we need this. We need people. We need connection. We need to be told every once in a while, hey, you know what? I see you. I see you. You're doing amazing. We just think of a genuine compliment that you get, Jason. Like somebody gives you a genuine compliment. How good do you feel about that? I make it like for life. I try to, I purposely look for things to compliment people on. You know, I may be in, shopping or something like that. And I right across the street from where I live, there is a shopping, like a food place, and it's a shopping place. And I see this one woman, and she's working behind the counter, customer service, and she's always got a smile on her face, always got that smile. And I noticed this, and she's just a sweet little woman. And I remember walking in one day, and I went up to the counter and I said, I've come in here several times, and I just want to say something to you. And she's like, yes, sir. And I said, you've got the nicest smile, and I have seen you interact with your customers, and you are so helpful. I hope that your bosses recognize that. I think you're just amazing. And I left. That was it. I made her day. But every time I walked into that place since then, and she's seen me, she would, hello, make that. People need it. People need that acknowledgement. And so when you said that, you saw that people need that, man. It's just, and this is why listening and asking someone to tell you their story is so powerful in negotiations, in sales, in life, with your friends, your family, your spouse, whoever it is. Listening to them, man, it makes all the difference. It really does.
Yeah, and I feel like these days, with the kind of retreat from community that we seem to be doing, I think it's probably more effective than ever if you're able to listen to someone, make them feel seen, and the rest of it, because maybe we're having less of those sort of encounters. So, when it does happen, I mean, I've had it myself when, quite often I spend a lot of time working from home, and I live alone, so I won't see anyone. And sometimes I don't know, I might go to the shop, or I can't think of an example or whatever, and someone could just say something like kind of nice, and I'm like, oh, like, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
Because I'm so like thirsty for like this connection, and I'm sure there'll be so many people who will feel exactly the same.
I'll say this, and I do motivational speaking on top of the negotiation talks. I speak as a motivational speaker as well. And I've written this in more than one of my book, and I've spoken about this on many, many stages. But we have to remember two of the greatest lessons that I learned in my life. And I'll share this with you and with all your listeners, because these are powerful lessons. I learned these earlier on in my police career, which helped make me successful and get all the jobs and help so many people. Here it is. Number one. We are more similar than we are different. We all laugh, love, and bleed in the same way. We may have different skin color, different religions, have been born in different places, but we all have the same experiences, different experiences, but the same mind. Kind of like, we have people that we love, we have things that we want to accomplish, we have fears, we have whatever. So we think very much alike because we're human. It's just so to understand that we are more similar than we are different means when I'm talking to you, Jason, I'm talking to someone very similar to me. So I know that you're struggling with something. I know that, you live alone. I live alone. I, it's the same thing. I feel good when I go out and somebody engages in conversation with me. So yeah, I know that you're more similar to me than you are different. And so I can then really put myself in your shoes. For example, um, when I used to work in the special victims unit, dealing with people who were sexually abused, sexually assaulted, raped, or whatever, and I would walk in to talk to them, I understood that they were just like me. So I would ask myself, what would I feel like having a male detective walking into the room to ask me about this horrific event, this thing that happened to me, this brutal attack? How would I feel if I were that person in those shoes? And so I would walk in without judgment and with a low voice, that kind of stuff, and say, I'm here to help, that kind of thing. So I would engage by imagining what it would be like to be them. And so we are more similar than we are different was one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned. So if you're struggling with something, imagine everybody out there struggling with something. And if we're there to offer a kind word or to ask, hey, how are you living? Not how are you doing? How are you living? How are things going, man? Like really showing that interest. It's amazing. The second most, I guess, powerful lesson that I learned is you get what you give. You really get what you give. So if I'm talking to you, Jason, and suddenly I raise my middle finger at you and start shouting and screaming and belittling you, what am I likely to get in return? You'd probably get very angry with me, start shouting at me. I'm going to get what I'm giving to you. But if I give you dignity and respect, then if I give you that I'm here to help, you're likely going to treat me in the same way. It's this approach that saved my life in the Middle East when I was about to be killed by terrorists. A terrorist saved my life. And it was because of the way in which I had treated him on an earlier occasion. And I am a believer that I am alive. I am alive here today because a terrorist saved my life. I was going to be killed. My partner and I, during the war, were going to be killed. And one man stepped in and said, not this guy. And so he let both my partner and I leave. Well, we were beaten. So we were hurt, but it wasn't because of him. He just saw it as it was happening and he put a stop to it. So, man,
tell me about that story.
But
was it Iraq you were in?
I was just outside of Iraq during the war. 2005, I was deployed to the Middle East, to Jordan. Canada didn't send soldiers to the Iraq war. We sent peacekeepers. And I was selected among 20 other peacekeepers in the country to go down to the biggest police academy in the world, the Jordanian International Police Training Center. And imagine this. There were 3,000 police cadets every 8 weeks who would come through this academy. It was in the middle of the desert, and 3,000 Iraqi men from the ages of about 16, believe it or not, 16 and 65 would come to the academy. Many of them did not want to be there. Many of them have never been away from home. Many of them some were doctors, some were lawyers, some were criminals, some were mentally unfit. They were being scooped up and pretty much pushed across the border to Jordan because Iraq needed so they needed police officers. They needed their country protected, and we got this whole mix of men, some very, very weak, some sick, some very strong, as I said, some criminals, some coffee makers, some people, Sunnis, Shiites, and even terrorists. We had terrorists because it was so easy to get into the police academy. All they had to do was sign up, or all they had to do was show up at a station where the buses were going to be sending them across the border, to be trained, and they were going to be given money, which is the incentive that many of these cadets would take, is that they were going to be paid $100 a month for the 8 weeks. $100 a week for the 8 weeks that they were there, and that was more money that they could make in a like in 6 months, or sometimes even a year for them, or 2 years, depending on the circumstances. So we had Sunnis, Shiites, and terrorists in our academy. And
were you aware? Were you aware at that time that there was terrorists or likely to be, or was it only in hindsight afterwards where you were like, "Oh wow, there was loads of them"?
I know we were told before we were deployed.
Yeah, you okay?
We were told that we were told we have security on the academy campus. Like, we have security there. They're trying to find out who these terrorists are. But guys, listen, it's war. Iraq can't vet these men. They can't. They're just pushing them through, and you're gonna have terrorists there. So be on. I mean, this is war, guys. You're going to war. You're signing up. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Just be aware that some of the people that you're going to be encountering on that academy in your classes are going to be terrorists. And so we were aware going in, and every once in a while, the next day, if I was in a class, if I was teaching a class of 60 men, the next day I might show up and there are 56, and 4 of them are gone. And of course, asking security, where's student A, B, and C? Like, oh well, they got scooped up in the middle of the night and arrested and taken off the academy because we found out that they are tied to a terrorist cell. So that was going on, but by no means were all the terrorists or their supporters being scooped up. They were amongst us. But the thing is, I had a classroom. I was teaching criminal investigations. I was teaching human rights, believe it or not. We're treating people with decency and such. And I would go, and like every 2 weeks, I would have about between 50 and 60 students in my classroom every 2 weeks, because they would come in through my class, and then they would leave my class. They would go on to maybe firearms or self-defense, or go on to explosives. And so they would go through a series of things until their 8 weeks were done. So my job was to teach them criminal investigations, because I knew a lot about that. Human rights, well, they gave me the book to teach from. And I thought to myself, before my students came in, again, I imagined what it would be like for them. I've got 60 men coming in. Some of them, like 16-year-olds, are not supposed to be there, but they would scoot in and say that they were 18 or 19 because they needed the money, or because they really wanted to defend their country, whatever it was. And I imagined, okay, so I've got these 60 men. Some of them have never been away from home for even one day, so they're going to be lonely. They're going to be heartbroken. They're very family connected, and like there's going to be so much. Like, imagine me going to a classroom because my country is at war, my family is at risk. I'm afraid. I don't want to be away from them, and here I am in this classroom, and I got some guy going to teach me. I don't want to be here, but so how am I going to treat this person? Like, I'm thinking all these things. What is it that I want to do to get through to them? And so what I would do, Jason, is I decided I was gonna do this. I did some acting. Remember, I told you I did some acting, and I said, but I was genuinely, again, sincere about how I was going to treat all these men, these Sunnis, these Shiites, these terrorists. Like, everyone I was going to treat with dignity and respect. And I would say this: I had a translator too, because it was Arabic, and I had a translator. And I told my translator, I said, listen, if I happen to jump on a table to make a point, and I'm raising my fists and doing all kinds of stuff, I want you doing the same thing. You mimic me, okay? Okay, all right, good. So when they all came and sat down, I said, and my translator would say it as well. I said, I am here to share my experiences with you and my knowledge with you. And I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm here to share with you. It's an honor for me to be here. It's a privilege for me to be here. And I really want to help each and every one of you. And I'm here to treat you with dignity and respect. And I would expect the same thing from each and every one of you. And I'm going to make this classroom informative, and I'm going to try to make it fun. I'm going to share some of my stories, and I'm going to ask you all to share some of yours. So in the next 2 weeks, let's have fun, let's work together, and let's make this a positive experience. And my name is Paul, and I want to get to know each and every one of you. That's how I would start it. And I maintained that. And I brought some acting into it because I had some students there, Jason, who didn't even know how to read. Like they were scooped off the street. They didn't know how to read. So how are they going to study a lesson? And I thought, and some of them were doctors, like lawyers and very educated people. And so I had to make it fit every one of them. So I said, listen, what I want to do is I want to teach you here today how to make a proper arrest. And so if I can get Abdul to stand up, and Mahmoud, you stand up too, let's role play this thing. Like, Mahmoud, I want you to be the policeman, and Abdul, I want you to be the criminal. And so we would go through this script. This is how you do it. And they would role play it. And that's how my lessons got into their head. And then I would say, okay, so for today, we learned X, Y, and Z. And tomorrow, you, and you are going to play these parts, these roles. So tonight, I want you to practice. And you're going to be on stage tomorrow. I'm going to sit in your chair, and you're going to teach me. You're going to do the whole role, the whole act. And then afterwards, you're going to take that crayon or that writing thing, and you're gonna teach the class what you learned. And we did that, and it was fun. I also did another thing with them. Imagine this: at 4:00 in the morning, they were awakened. Why? Because they had 2 hours of drill to do before they came to class. Class started at 8 o'clock. They would get up at 4:30 maybe, and they would have to be in uniform. They would have to start exercising. They would have to start marching. This was war, man. This was war. And they had a strict routine that they had to do. So if they're up at 4:30 in the morning and doing 2 hours of exercising, and some of these men had never exercised in their life, and they had to be there, and they had to be attentive, and they had drill sergeants and all this. And then they had to come to my class at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would fall asleep. Like, could you imagine? I'd be there like in uncomfortable little chairs, like in the desert. Sometimes, like, depending on the time of year, sometimes it was freezing and sometimes it was hot. And so there I had to entertain them, which is why I had to jump on the table and start saying, and this is how you do it. And everybody, whoa. So I would do this, and I would get them engaged and get them to laugh and such. And I had them from 8 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And around 3 o'clock, I thought, man, I would say, guys, we had a real good day here today. We got another hour before I can send you out. And I don't know. This just occurred to me, like when I was there, Jason. I thought, what do I do with them to make it fun, like even more fun? And I thought, American Idol was a big thing, and Canadian Idol, we had that. And I thought, I wonder if any of these guys know how to sing. And so I've got, imagine this, a class of 60 men, 60 police cadets, Sunnis, Shiites, and terrorists in a classroom. And I say to them, anybody here know how to sing? And they're looking at, like when they would one of the people would raise their hand and another one would raise their hand. I said, okay, what we're going to do for the next hour is we're going to have a singing and storytelling time. And guess what? It was such a hit with every class, Jason. Every class that came in absolutely loved it. And they could sing, and some of them could tell stories. And when they would sing, of course, I didn't understand. My language assistant would have to tell me what was going on. And some were laughing because the story was, he's telling a story. If it was a storyteller, he's telling the story about how it was an arranged marriage and she had a veil all over her face, and it was their wedding night, and he was about to have sex with her, and she took off her veil and she looked like a goat. And everybody's laughing. I'm like, what are they laughing about? Oh, she took off her veil and she had the ugliest face. She looked like a goat. And we were all laughing.
Man.
So we were experiencing this thing. And when we had a singer in the classroom, Jason, like a singer, other cadets would go to the back of the class and they would collect these 5-gallon jugs of water, like empty water, because we went through water like crazy, right? And they would take the empty jugs and start playing drums. They would use them as drums. We had such a great experience in that classroom. And I tell you all this because in one of the classrooms was that terrorist who saved my life. And I had no idea that he was a terrorist when I was teaching him. I knew he had a bodyguard, but that wasn't unusual because tribes, like within Iraq, some people are very, very respected and they have their own bodyguards, and they would come in, and this was just something that was, well, it was natural for them. And so this one cadet actually spoke English, and he would stay after classroom. At first, he was just, for the first 3 days, he would just look at me and listen, and just, he wouldn't engage in the classroom, wouldn't say much. After about 3 days, he stayed after class, and that's when I realized he could speak English. And he said, "Mr. Paul, what do you think about this war?" And he would start asking me questions. So we sat and we had coffee, and we developed this little relationship. Now, I had no idea he was a terrorist. Had no idea that he actually had a say in who was going to die. I only found that out a few weeks later, after he had left my classroom, and I was walking through I had left the teaching, my teaching job. I had taken another job. I competed for the job of a counselor on the academy. So I would be an advocate and counselor, and it was a well sought after position. And I put my name in, and I was very blessed to have been selected to be this advocate and counselor for the academy. And as such, I was transferred out of the teaching into another building, in which it was my job now to determine what cadets had to be repatriated home, because maybe they had been raped the night before. They were beaten. Like, we had all kinds of things happening in this academy. Some of them were mentally unstable, and they were brought to my attention, and I would make up a report that I would then give the director to say, these men have got to go back. They're going to either die here or something terrible is going to happen. Some of them are suicidal. So I would do that. And then I would also get all the class leaders together to see how all their classrooms are going. It was an amazing job. But I was told while I was there, one of my jobs was to counsel them. So some of them would wait, and they would come in and they would want to speak to me, and they would, because they were so terrified or lonely or whatever. And so I was a counselor to them. They would come in, they would sit down and say, "Mr. Paul, I got to talk to you. I can't take it anymore. I miss my family. I'm going to kill myself." And I was there to listen. So I had an office, and I had a language assistant that would sit in with me, and they would come in and they would talk about their struggles, or they couldn't reach their family. Some of them couldn't reach their family. I can go on and on, Jason, but I won't. But just enough to say that I was there to help them and to listen to them and to make their experience there better, or to send them back home if they needed to go back home. And on one of these occasions, a cadet came in that was lonely, and he'd come in if I had time. He says, "Can you talk for 5 minutes?" "Oh yeah, I can talk for 5 minutes." And he says, "Mr. Paul, there's going to be an attack on the academy. There's from within. There are several terrorists who are ready to kill internationals, and I don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but I know what's going to happen in the next short while, and I just wanted to let you know." So I went to our security, and I said, I was informed by someone I trust. This young cadet has come in several times to talk to me, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve him, but I understand. They said, "Yeah, we heard that too. So we're going to put all of you instructors and everybody on high alert." And of course, you're at war. You don't get to leave just because you might be under attack. I mean, let's think about the soldiers out there at war right now. They don't get to leave when the going gets tough.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. And so we were too. few days after that, my partner, I had a partner that worked in the advocacy and counseling division with me. His name was Yadamo, and we're still friends to this day. And just a wonderful man, and just we got along so well. So he had his reports that he was going to bring to the director, and I did as well. So we got to the academy. We didn't stay at the academy. We lived in Amman, and we would drive an hour into the desert to come to this academy. And so we were the first ones to arrive, and we would take our reports to the director and make our case. It was like going to a judge and making a case. Hey, sir, you've got to send, 5 men back to Iraq because they won't survive. And the director's job was to try to keep the soldiers. And so I would have to negotiate with him and give my reasons why these men had to be redeployed back home. So we did that every day, and it was a walk through the desert to the director's building, and then we would walk back to ours. And on this one morning, as we were walking back from the director's office, from behind another building, there were about 40 armed insurgents. When I say armed, they had sticks, they had rocks, they had chains, they had whatever they could get their hands on. Fortunately, they didn't have a gun, but they were armed with whatever they could carry. And they ran and they circled my partner and I. And they started hooting and hollering, and we knew exactly what this was. They were about to kill us. And my partner was taller than me. He was about a foot taller than me. And he pats me on the head and he says, this is going to hurt, little buddy. We both knew we were going to die. And we weren't going to go down without a fight. And then as soon as we said that, as soon as I said, yep, it's going to hurt, little buddy, they grabbed us. They started to beat us. We started to fight for our lives. We were down on the ground, and we were being beaten. I was trying to punch my way out, and I heard one cadet yelling, Mr. Paul, from above all the other sounds of imagine 40 men, hooting and hollering and kicking and doing all that stuff. And I hear one guy, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul. And then all of a sudden, I hear him shouting something in Arabic, and everybody stops. And the attack, the beating stopped, and they moved away from us. And like my head's spinning. And I'm looking, and from that crowd, I see this man approaching me. It was the man who was in my class those weeks before, who had coffee with me, and who developed a relationship with me. And he came up and he put his hand out, and he helped me up, and he said, you and your partner, you leave. Today's not going to be a good day. And so we did. We left. And we put a stop to all the other instructors from coming into the academy that day. And so that's how treating someone the way that I wanted to be treated actually saved my life, and why I'm here today.
Wow. Yeah, that's it really is like a Hollywood story. That, I mean, what a kind of beautiful, complicated, nuanced situation there. What do you think? What do you think your time in the Middle East taught you about humanity?
Well, it taught me. It really taught me that again, it reinforced the things that I already knew, that we are more similar than we are different. A lot of these cadets did not want to be there. They were afraid. They had families that they had left, all kinds of things. And the way in which I treated them was the way in which they treated me. So it reinforced those things. It also taught me that we can get through things together. And it doesn't matter if you're warring sides. Like I had Sunnis, Shiites, and terrorists laughing and singing in my classroom. Come on. I had these men drop their hatred. Like the Sunnis didn't like the Shiites didn't like the Sunnis, and we had terrorists. So talk about a little mix of people in one place that drop all their hatred towards one another and start singing and telling stories and getting along. They weren't getting along in their other classrooms. They kept saying, your classroom is so different. Mr. Paul, the other instructors, Some of them call us names. Some of us are like are hitting us. Some of them are doing this because, well, it was right after 9/11. A lot of American instructors hated anyone to do with the Middle East, and as a result and a consequence, they would treat these cadets as though they were responsible for the attack of 9/11, and they were being treated like animals. And they didn't get that in my classroom. And so it taught me that, man, we can really break down the walls that separate us if we only start to see one another, to listen to one another, to engage with one another. That's what it taught me. And I think I told you at the very beginning of our talk that I've written books, but I also wrote a script, a movie script. And I wrote this story as a movie script. And it looks like it's going to be made into a feature movie. It's got a lot of attention, and I have a very accomplished Canadian actor. He's very well known, who wants to play the lead role. I have another actor, a very accomplished American actor that people recognize, who wants to play in the movie. And I have a producer who says that it's going to be made into a movie, but exactly when, because COVID happened, it was supposed to be filmed this year. So things are on the shelf for the moment, but we're moving forward with this movie. So, and it is a movie that needs to be told, especially now with the conflict across the world. Why not have a story that really talks about humanity being one, and us, reaching out and making things better for everybody,
Yeah, I'll look out for that. You'll have to let me know when it gets published. How do we know if someone's lying to us?
That's it's a very good question. Okay. Well, there's a number of different ways to dissect what people say. We use different means of communication. We use words, we use the tone of our voice, and we use our body language. So our words, our tone of voice, and our body language should be working all in sync with what we're saying. And we have to be paying attention to the words that are being used, to how their body is communicating that message, and what the tone of their voice is. So, for example, if I were talking to someone who was accused of stealing something, and I would say, John, did you steal that money? Did you steal that $2,000? And if John would say, well, why would I steal that money? And he would cross his arms, or he would look away or something. And he would say, well, why would I steal that money? I got a good job. I work 9 to 5. I got money in the bank. Why would I steal that? Did he answer my question? My question was a yes or no question. My question was, did you steal that money? The first thing to come out of his lips should have been no. Not a story. It should have been no. And the body language suddenly shifting over. Maybe he's scratching himself. Maybe he's looking away from me. Maybe the eye contact has shifted. There's something that's off. Maybe the tone of his voice is no. It's a higher pitch. You're looking for all the channels of communication to be working in sync. Did he answer my question? It was a yes or no question. I didn't ask about his job. I didn't ask about this. I didn't ask about that. I asked a simple question. Did you steal that money? Or in the case of a murder, did you kill Jane Smith? I would never do something like that. Oh, why would I do something like that? Like I didn't even, it's a very simple question. Yes or no, did you? And I would watch for the response. How long does it take for that answer to come out? What was it? What is it in his words? What is it in his or her body language? People under extreme pressure, depending on what it is, their body goes into a fight or flight. Like they just want to get out. And so the body starts to fall apart is what happens really. Is it the the blood starts to circulate a lot more, and people, their hearts start to, beat a little bit more, and they're thinking, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? They might start to shake. They might start to pick lint off their clothing, or start to play with their hair, or scratch their nose or something, because that's the body's response, is like it's under panic. So you're watching to see the shift that is being that's taking place in the body. Like, what is it? Are their words right? Is the tone of their voice in connection with with the words? Is there something off? I'm looking for that. But it's not like you can just do that right off the bat. What I'd like to do, ideally with someone, is to sit with them and talk with them, so that there's no pressure. Because if they're coming in to talk to me, they're nervous, like I'm a cop, or I was a polygraph examiner too, and this was part of my job, was to use the instrument to see whether or not that there was some deception being detected. And I was the polygraph, like I was the lie detector. I was watching them and listening and asking certain questions. But I would want to see what their homeostasis is. What I mean by that is, what's their norm? If I'm talking to them not about the crime that they committed, if I'm talking to them about the weather, if I'm talking to them about, just their jobs, or maybe we're looking for something that we have in common to build that rapport, and I'm just watching them, and they're really calm and cool and collected, and they're just like, yeah, they're leaning in, and then I suddenly say, now I'd like to talk to you about that money that was stolen. Then all of a sudden their body changes, and I start to ask the questions, and that's when I start to see them picking at their ear, or looking away or down, or just moving away from me and crossing their arms. So it's a very it's a process. It's a process, and it has to do with our means of communication, our body, our tone of voice, and our words. And it's an art. It really is an art. And it's amazing what people will do under pressure.
Yeah, it makes me think, like, if I was in a situation whereby I maybe thought someone was being dishonest with me, maybe my own lack of sort of self-confidence about, like, am I making this up? Like, trusting my own intuition, I might go into a conversation and I might skirt around the problem, making chit chat, because of that's my insecurity. But actually, that's a good way to then sort of tee them up, to have the chit chat, see them comfortable before you deliver the question, to then notice the shift. Yeah. Very interesting. Thankfully, I don't have anyone I need to use that on.
Well, we all lie. We all lie every day. Most of us, but if not everybody, unless you're not talking to anybody, and maybe you're lying to yourself. You're telling yourself lies. But everybody lies, white lies, they call them. Like, oh, hey, am I fat in this dress? No, honey, no, you look really good in that dress. And you're like, it's just, it's a way of avoiding conflict sometimes, or just trying to get along, where if we were 100% honest, it could hurt a lot of people's feelings, right? So there's going to be certain lies that are told, and we justify telling them because of the consequence of not telling them. And but the bigger lies, those are the ones that we need to really kind of plan to ask, and just want
deception, isn't it? That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Your latest book, Damn It, Just Ask.
Mm-hmm.
Why this book?
It's not my latest, but
apologies, I thought it was.
No, I wrote
my research has been off there.
Yeah, I know, I wrote another one since then. But Damn It, Just Ask is for business people and everyone. Actually, it's for everyone. It teaches people how to get more out of life, how to ask. And damn it, just ask. Many of us don't ask for the things that we want and the things that we deserve. My book helps people get over the fear of asking. It may be asking for a job. It may be asking for a date. It may be asking for anything. And many of us are afraid. We fear being told no, or whatever it is, or we're not familiar with how to ask. So my book helps the reader prepare mentally for negotiating and for asking for more out of life. And then it teaches the reader how to ask, and how to ask in a way that will be received much better. Like, there is a foundation. I teach people the foundation, that building of the rapport, all that. It's a book that teaches people how to get more out of life, and to, damn it, just ask for what it is that you want. Wayne Gretzky, as a Canadian hockey player, was a Canadian hockey player, very, very successful hockey player. He has this great quote, and it says, "You always miss 100% of the shots that you don't take." And it's true. And the book teaches you how to take those shots. It teaches you the confidence to ask for what it is that you want, and how to ask for what it is that you want, or how to negotiate, how to deal in a business setting when there is a big multi-million-dollar negotiation going on. And, how do I ask the questions? How do I positively influence this? What is it that I can do that will bring this to a successful resolution for everyone here? So Damn It, Just Ask is a book on negotiating and asking for what you want. It teaches you why you have to go for what you want, because you won't get that date, you won't get that job, you won't get that contract if you don't try, and if you don't ask for it. So I'm going to teach you in that book how to ask, and how to get over the fear of rejection, how to ask in a way that will be received well, and that will help you get more out of life. That's why I wrote the book. I wanted people to get over their fear, and to be prepared for going in and asking for a job, or asking for a raise, or asking for a date. I wanted people to step up and say, I deserve as much as everybody else. And here's what I have to offer you. And here's what I believe in myself. And those are the people who get the date, who get the jobs, who get the contracts. And that's what I teach in that book. That's why I wrote it.
Yeah, the deserving of the thing seems key.
Yep.
Like, I was thinking about it then, and I've always been very good at asking for stuff, like in the business world. Employers always been very good at that. Maybe not the best at asking girls out. Or, don't get me wrong, I've done plenty of it, but I was trying to look at the differences between some of my friends maybe who would just never think of asking the boss for X, Y, and Z. Whereas I'd be like, just ask him, it just seems natural to me. But then, and I was thinking, okay, well, why is that? Yeah, it's that self-belief that you actually deserve it. Sounds like a key thing to...
It is, and it's asking in such a way that people don't feel threatened. That they don't feel. For example, one way of getting people to maybe to say yes, and we're looking for a yes, right? One of the ways to do that is to start maybe the conversation off with, Jason, I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you for a big favor here today, but I want you to know that you can say no. Please don't feel any pressure whatsoever. If you want to say no, you just say no to me. It's okay. But I'm just going to ask, and please feel free to say no. And then I ask you, what's that done? Pressure's taken off of you.
Yeah, and you're almost, for some reason, there's this instinct to want to pass it back over the net the opposite way. I don't know. There was something by you saying that was like, well, I might say yes. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know me. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, there was something going on there that I was trying to think about, like how I'm going to respond. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not a bad guy, or do you know, like
Right.
it's like some sort of negative, like polarization that's going on there that's kind of pulling you to the other way.
The
Cool.
I have a story for that, Jason. This approach that I teach, and I also talk about it in the book, is that after I had written my script, and the my agent and producer, the producer of the movie, she is going to be the one. She says, "Well, we need a pretty big actor, to play the lead." And we happen to be talking about this one Canadian actor who's very, very popular. And she says, "Well, if we could get someone like him, wouldn't that be great?" And I said, "Well, leave it with me." And I found a way to reach this actor, and I found a way to to send him a message. And I sent him a message, and in the message, I had met him once at this event, and I had only seen him for like everybody was crowding around him, and everybody was trying to, and I saw him, and I think I managed to shake his hand for 2 seconds, and then I got pushed to the back and such. But so I sent him a message, and I said, "You will certainly never remember our meeting, but I met you once, and I just want to let you know a little bit about myself. Is that I'm an actor as well, and I've written a script, and I'm inviting you to say no to this, but I would love to send you the script. I believe that your approach to people and the message in this film, in this script, is very much the message that you've been talking in your circles, because I've listened to you before." So I went on, and it wasn't a long message, but it was one that said, "I met you once, so there's a connection. We're both, like, you're a successful actor. I'm an actor too, so we have something in common. But I wrote a script that I think will resonate with you because of the type of person that you are, and I'm inviting you to say no. But if you would be interested in reading the script, I would love to send it to you." So I sent him this message, and 3-4 days go by. Never heard anything, so I sent it back a second time, and I got a message almost immediately sent back to me. "Oh, just got this. Yes, please. Here's where to send the script to." I sent the script out, and about 3 weeks later, I get another message from him. "I'm interested in doing this. Let's set up a meeting." So we set up a meeting, and it looks like he's going to be doing the movie.
Wow. What out of interest, what platform was that message on?
I managed to reach out to him on Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, Instagram's good. I mean,
I
that's
tell
how
you,
we got talking. Instagram's good. You'd be surprised how many people reply.
that's it.
Just ask,
Just
like you say.
damn it, just ask. And you know what? If I wouldn't have asked, if I would have thought to myself, and here's what happens to many of us: we start to think, "Well, I'm going to ask this big actor." "Oh no, what are you thinking?" We have this little internal voice going on. It's like,
Mm,
"What? He's never going to answer you." Well, okay, well, don't even try. What do you got? Like, he's there. He's this big guy, and you're not. And so we talk ourselves out of it. It's like talking ourselves out of asking for a date, where the person, male or female, might be thinking, "I wonder if he's going to ask me or she's going to ask me out." They're thinking the same
mm,
thing you are. But if you never ask, you won't find out. And so I asked, and I believe in asking twice. I don't believe, like, maybe even 3 times. Like, sometimes people won't get the message the first time. Like, particularly in Instagram, they might not get it. They might have a
mm.
100 messages, and they can't go through it. Like, I have many, many messages coming through me because I have a lot of people who follow me. But and so some I will miss, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not intentional. It's just that I never realized that before until I started getting all these messages. And
Yeah.
so, but the whole point is, damn it, just ask. What's the
Mm.
worst that can happen? They can say no. It's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. They can say no. It's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so that was your second book, I presume.
Yes. Yeah.
So the third book, has it been released or?
Yes, it has been. It's been released. My first
What's
book
that one called?
was my
Oh,
first book
sorry.
was Take Control of Your Life. That's the one I the voice that was telling me to write in the first place, and I kept saying no. But when I wrote that one, it was written under the title of Hostage to Myself, and when I self published that one, but the universe must have been listening because the universe was the one who was whispering, write the book in the first place. I sold about 40 copies of it at first when it was first released, and one of the people who bought a copy was an editorial director for one of the biggest publishing companies in the world, HarperCollins. And they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we read your book, and we want to have coffee with you." And they bought the rights to the book, and there you go. I mean, I could have said no to the voice, but I didn't. I said yes, and so it was published across the world. At the Damage Just Ask is self-published, so it is available as a self-publication, as are my other books. I've got I got another one on conflict resolution and another one on mental wellness.
Wow. Wow. So which is your latest?
It's called Reset. It's the one that Reset is really about resetting our mindset. Every once in a while, with life's pressures and with everything that's going on, we just need to take a break. We just need to take a big, deep breath, and we have to start challenging our narratives when our narratives are negative. And reset is how to do that. It's like I compare it almost to a phone that's not working well, or maybe your laptop or your computer's not working well, and sometimes all you need to do is unplug it and replug it in, and the circuits start working better and that kind of stuff. So I start to talk about this is what we have to do in life sometimes, is we have to take a step back and just take a look at it and say, all right, how do I reset myself? What is it? What kind of things must I be doing to get my frame of mind in a positive place? And I talk about different ways and therapies in which to do that, how to reset. Every once in a while, take that break, take that deep breath, imagine your narrative, and do what is required to be done. And again, when I talked about the computer, sometimes there's a virus in the computer and it has to be taken to a professional to have it removed. And sometimes our mind, we have to see a professional, a counselor, someone who will help us to reset to an operating system within ourselves that works well for us. Our operating systems, our minds don't always work well. And sometimes we need a therapy, a therapist, or a way of releasing. And that's what resetting teaches us to do. Sometimes it's me calling my friend Jason and just saying, "Hey, Jason, I need to go out for coffee, buddy. I got to talk to somebody." And sometimes that's the therapy that we use is reaching out to a friend. Or I need to get myself out of this place. Like I'm surrounded by so much work right now. I just need I need to take a walk. I need to do something. I need to listen to some music, something that soothes me. I have to change the way I'm eating or the things that I'm doing that aren't serving me. So that's the reset.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of a reset myself this week, actually. I do a lot of training for these high rocks competitions, and I had a competition at the weekend, and I'm fast, I'm strong, the fastest I've ever been, strongest I've ever been, and yet I caught a picture of myself, and I've got this little gut sticking out, and I'm just something slightly off with my diet. I don't think I respond well to wheat, actually. I'm going off track slightly, so this week I've reset. So I subtracted as much as I could from my diet. I actually went to carnivore diet plus fruit, and did some fasting. And like literally 4 days in, like I've totally reduced all the inflammation. Like I feel better. And yeah, it's so important sometimes just to clear the decks before you start to reintroduce. So my plan is next week I'll start to reintroduce some fibrous vegetables, stuff like that, and just kind of bring it back up. But it's been quite freeing, actually,
Mm-hmm.
to be like, yeah, like all this stuff and supplements and protein powder and protein yogurts and all this stuff. And I've just kind of dialed it right back. And I'm like, wow, it's like really straightforward when you're only eating a certain amount of things.
You're
You know,
right.
there's a lot less options.
You're right.
So yeah, that's it. Just yeah, it seemed topical. That I know we're going on for nearly 2 hours here, but I've got a few questions that I sourced from my audience. If you'd be willing to tap
Sure.
into
I got a
them,
little bit more time, but I do have to get on with my day. But
yeah,
go
we'll
for it.
fly through these.
Awesome.
Okay, so from David F. He says, "Did you ever go into a situation? This is a hostage situation, knowing it won't end well."
Oh, no, I never have. And what a great question. Thank you for asking that, David. No, I never have. I can't walk in with a negative thought, like, because my mindset has to be clear, has to be positive. If I even think, I'm walking into something that I won't be able to resolve, then I'm already setting myself up not to resolve it. Am I not? And
Mm,
so when I was in the negotiation, but not with a hostage taker, but with a person who was suicidal, there have been times where I felt their mental illness is such that I can't reach them. And so then I would have to, like, remember, I'm working with a team, and we have a number of police officers ready to pounce or ready to do something. Even in a hostage crisis, we got the snipers, we got everything. And if I thought that it wouldn't be resolved, I would have to call for the shot to be taken or for the place to be breached. And I was in a situation where I was talking to a person who had a mental illness, and I knew that if we didn't barge in, if my guys didn't go in the next minute, that person was going to slice their throat or their wrists, and they were going to be dead. And so I did have to call for, like, give
mm,
the order for the place to be breached. And sure enough, we reached the person just as they were about to kill themselves. So never walking in to a situation with a negative or the feeling that I would never be able
mm,
to resolve it. No, but we have to be very cognizant of what dynamics are happening and what's happening, and when to make the call, when to make perhaps the call of life and death. Like, if I thought that my hostage taker was going to shoot or kill somebody, or they were going to go off, and I'd have to give that command, is that you better take the shot now, or somebody's going to die. And
mm.
that's the way it is.
It's like that the sales thing with the being confident with the product that we were talking about.
Yeah.
You can't lie to yourself. Next one from Lying with Lions is what is a common factor / denominator in a hostage taker or criminal?
Most common, and I hope I understand the question correctly, but um, it, that really depends, because I said earlier that in most instances, um, a hostage taking wasn't planned. It was a spur of the moment, panic driven, kind of circumstantial situation that led the hostage taker to take a hostage because they didn't know how to get out of the situation. And so that common denominator there is one of panic. Like, they panicked. So my approach was dealing with a person under panic, under pressure, who probably couldn't hear me. Like, when I got on the phone with them, I'd take the phone, like, and we're trying to reach them. It's not a face-to-face negotiation. We're trying to reach them. And if they do answer, many times they wouldn't even hear my voice. They wouldn't,
Mm,
because their heart was beating so loudly. It was almost as though their head was underwater. If you've ever heard people talking, when your head was underwater, you could faintly hear the voice. But this is what happens when we're in fight or flight. Sometimes our heart is just like we can't hear, which is why I would have to repeat myself a few times. Hi, my name is Paul. I'm the negotiator. I'm here to help. I might have to repeat that a few times until they settle down. And now they're still trapped. They're like, I'm still trapped. How do I get out? I'm here to help you get out. That kind of thing. So the common denominator with that kind of spur of the moment hostage situation is panic. On the other hand, if you happen to be traveling in a country where there's a lot of hostages being taken for a later negotiation for money, the common denominator there is a business negotiation. That becomes a business negotiation. And so different negotiations have different things. If it's religiously motivated, taking someone to make a point, there are so many dynamics. So what a great question, though. And that hasn't been asked of me, but every negotiation, depending on the circumstance, has a different denominator. And in a spur of the moment kind of one, it's like, okay, it's panic. How do I start to help this person see that there's only one way out? And how do I get them to trust me enough that I can help them get out alive, as opposed to dealing with someone who's been taken hostage for a price. That's a different thing.
All right. Next, I'll make this the last one. Sure. Inverted Mouse says, what part of hostage negotiation skills are beneficial to employment?
To employment? The ability to communicate, the ability to listen, the ability to ask questions. All these things, like when you think about it, a hostage negotiator is a good listener. A hostage negotiator is a good communicator. A hostage negotiator is patient. A hostage negotiator is involved in and engaged. And so when you look at the many wonderful, I guess, qualities that a hostage negotiator has, you can use those strengths in any kind of negotiation, job, exchange with anyone. Be a good listener. Remember the sales acronym, guys. Be of service, ask questions, listen, empathize, summarize. Just seek first to understand and then to be understood is a big one. Use your voice, use silence. There's a real there's a real way of communicating. And the more that you understand how to communicate well, the more successes you'll have in life. And it doesn't stop.
Thank you very much. Well, we shall wrap things up. Would you care to tell me your future projects, plans on the horizon other than the film?
I took a break off acting a while back. I was writing my books. I was doing a lot of speaking, and I took a little bit of a break off film and television. And I just recently got back into it about 4 months ago. And so I'm now auditioning for different television and film projects. So that is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm also speaking. And I'm open. The universe will whisper something else to me. And I'm a yes man. Yes. I never would have become a hostage negotiator if I hadn't had the courage enough to ask and go for the job. Never would have gone to the Middle East if I hadn't had the courage to ask and go for what I wanted. I never would have done this. I never would have written the book. I never would have written the film. I never would have. And I'm talking to everyone who's listening here. You may have a book in you. You may have a script in you. You may have a song in you. You may have something that you have to say yes to. And guess what? If you don't say yes, it will never get done. And the way I look at it is that on my deathbed, I do not want to be visited by the ghost of missed opportunities, a series of ghosts that surround my bed and say, hey, Paul, we whispered in your ear that you should have written a book or you should have written a script. We whispered that. You remember? And you said no. Let me show you what it would have been like if you would have said yes. I don't want to be visited by ghosts of missed opportunities. I want to be visited by the ghosts of rock and roll. The ones who say, dude, man, that was amazing. I so enjoyed your ride. What a roller coaster ride. We're coming with you next time. I want those spirits, and I want you, each and every one of you, to go for what it is that your spirit, your voice, your whispers are telling you to do. And if you don't succeed, it's okay. At least you took your shot. And even the greatest of athletes miss most of the shots that they take, but some of them land. And if you don't try, you'll never experience the landing. And man, the landing is amazing. The landing is amazing when the universe says, yes, I will. You see, we have this energy, and you will get what energy you project. You get what you give. If I have a high value energy, if I believe in myself, if I believe in what I'm doing, the universe is going to say, yes, I'm going to give it to you. Yes, because you got that energy. You got it. You deserve it. But if I have that low energy that won't work out, may as well not even ask, because they're probably going to say no anyway. I'm not even going to ask. Then the universe goes, yeah, you're not going to get it. No, yeah, you're not deserving. So guys, believe in yourself. Elevate that energy and just bring it on. And guess what? You land. Many of them get right in there. Some of them don't. It's all right.
I love that. Yeah, that somewhat Dickensian sort of image we had there. Thank you very much. Paul, this has been awesome. It's just been so fascinating to an interesting life that you've led up to this point. There's so many threads that have gone throughout this that I think we'll all be able to pick up on and put into practice in our own lives. So thank you very much. Where should I direct people if they want to find out more about you?
If you type my name into the internet, many things will come up. Just J. Paul Nadeau or Paul Nadeau, and my face will pop up all over the place. But I also have a website you can check. It's jpaulnadeau.com, www.jpaulnadeau.com. So jpaulnadeau.com. That's it. I'm on social media, as you know. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. But that website, or just typing my name into the internet, I was surprised how many things come up on the internet when I my own name. It's like, what? They know that? And it's funny. There's so much AI things out there, and there's one called Perplexity or something like that. And I used it. And I said, tell me about J. Paul Nadeau, the hostage negotiator. And I thought, it's not going to come up with anything. Page after page. And questions like how he got involved in this and how he got involved in that. I'm like, are you kidding? Like AI knows me? Come on.
It's wild.
It's wild, man.
Yeah. You've made it when the AI's chatting about you.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for having me on your show, and for the way in which you conducted this interview. Your questions were great. Your listeners, I want to thank them as well. The questions that were asked were amazing. So to each and every one of you who participated, I thank you. To your listeners, I wish you the very, very best. And remember, the world is out there, and you deserve as much as anybody else out there. So go on and get what it is that you want. And there are ways in which to do it. And I wish you every success. So thank you, Jason, for having me on your show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. All the best, man.
Hey guys, it's me. Thank you so much for watching that episode, and congratulations for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. A few things before you get going. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to both my guests and myself. And if you made it this far, why don't you drop me a DM?